Kapla, viewers!
Oh, God.
I can't say it, it's written weird.
Yeah.
It's
Kapla! Yeah. Kapla, viewers! Welcome to Housecoat Podcasting, where today we view the mighty warships of the Klingon Empire.
And what better ship to start out with than the Glory, the Eternal,
Reinforcements are coming.
the Bringer of Destruction, the D7, designed by Matt Jeffries himself. So, the father of the Enterprise was also the father of the Klingon Empire's Starfleet.
Yep.
I guess that means the Connie and the D7 are half siblings.
Fair enough. But yes.
Half siblings twice removed.
We have a new ship for the fleet.
But yes, this is
Reinforcements are coming.
this was the first Klingon starship to ever grace TV screens. When you
Technically, there was a cutout scene in season 2, Friday's Child.
Beginning construction.
E.C. Henry did a nice reconstruction of that design and turned it basically into a TOS Raptor.
right, but yes, this
Credit where it's due. He did a good job.
Yeah, E.C. Henry does do good work. A lot of his Star Wars designs. Anyway, this was the icon. If the Connie was the icon of Starfleet, this was the icon of the Klingons. When you thought Klingon, you thought D7.
Well, you think three things: Batleth, Honor, D7.
Yeah. Though, were Batleths around in the original series era?
No.
Beginning construction.
Right. But yeah, this was the very first iconic design.
We have a new ship for the fleet.
Oh wow, is it a nice design?
Reinforcements are coming.
It very much emphasizes the Klingon mode of attack. Forward charge, everything must die.
Yes.
And you might have noticed I have a lot of D7s.
Yes. This is Star Trek Continuum, and Ron always likes to build giant swarms.
Which brings us to something I'm going to be mentioning later.
We have a new ship for the fleet.
Note the location of the impulse engine on this
Reinforcements are coming.
Okay, it's in that little pod on top.
STO's version has, well, different models.
Reinforcements are coming.
But, hey, I'm not going to blame the guys from Continuum. They're doing their damnedest with limited material. Still better than STD.
Yeah.
Though, I will admit their version of the D7 isn't bad, it's just anachronistic.
Yeah.
About the only thing that doesn't have any sins.
Yeah, but we
Other
will get
than-
to that.
Yes.
We will get to that
A new
later.
ship for the fleet.
This is
Reinforcements are coming.
D3.
It's a FASA design that was eventually ported over to Legacy, and you can see the obvious link. It looks like a
We have a new
D7,
ship
but
for the fleet.
not very elegant.
Yeah,
Reinforcements are
and a
coming.
lot smaller. Almost to me looks like a little tiny baby D7. Even if I know it's a lot. Even if I know it's a lot older, but
Oh, you have no bloody idea. Remember, D7, D4,
D3. This thing is, yeah, it's very old.
and we might as well send this thing into glorious battle.
Yep.
I almost feel sorry for the guys up here.
We have a new ship for the fleet.
Oh,
What's going on? They're already fighting each other.
They're Klingons. Civil war is inevitable.
Yeah.
Oops.
Okay.
I hope you recognize that noise.
TOS disruptors.
Yep. Oh,
Yeah. Oh, tiny little fighter.
it's more of a bomber.
Yeah.
Remember,
fair enough.
FASA does have...
Honestly, it looks like something from Gundam. Like
Well,
one of those things that the mobile suits would ride on.
You honor my house.
Oh,
The subflight unit.
Reinforcements are coming.
yeah.
well, FASA did include some fighter designs, but fighters and Trek don't exactly mesh well.
Yeah.
Only because people lack imagination.
No, because
We have a new ship for the fleet.
this is
honor my
submarine
house.
warfare.
Yeah.
And
Eh,
you
Beginning
try
construction.
making fighters work
Yes.
underwater.
yeah.
It's doable.
Honestly, I think the best use for fighters is for like planetary strafing runs, that kind of thing.
Not fleet battles.
Yes, they can. You just lack imagination. It's a constant battle between the sword and the
We have
shield.
a new ship for the fleet.
Well,
You just need to build a better fighter to counteract the better weapon. It's pretty much like the same thing with whole Ukraine stuff. Like the
let's
Ukraine
not
have
mention
the.
that. I've been avoiding mentioning that.
I'm not talking about any political things. I'm talking strictly to the military. The Ukrainians have like good missiles, and they are destroying the Russian tanks. So the Russians need to make a better tank or a better defensive mechanism against the missiles. It's the same thing here. It's the same logic with Star Trek. You just need to come up with the fighters. You need to come up with a better countermeasure for the Starship weapons, and the Starships will have to make a better countermeasure. And it's an ongoing battle between countermeasure. Just keep on going.
We have a new ship for the fleet.
And now we move on to ships.
Beginning construction.
Well,
In case it wasn't obvious, I'm an advocate for fighters in every game.
Yes.
we've noticed.
Yes.
This is the K-30. I'm not entirely sure if this is a FASA design or something from Bethesda.
But it was in Legacy.
Hence why I just mentioned Bethesda. They
Yeah.
made Legacy.
Yeah.
However, it does
You know-
fit in as a development of the D5.
Yep.
You can obviously tell from the general shape. In fact, when I wrote the description I wrote the descriptions for these ships.
We have
Alright,
a new ship
D3.
for the fleet. Reinforcements are coming.
K-30.
We have a new ship for the fleet. Beginning construction.
I was very complimentary.
Yeah.
It means the
We
D7.
have a new ship for the
Yeah.
fleet.
Ravenous.
Reinforcements are coming.
D12 Predator. Yeah.
This one is definitely a FASA design.
Yep. Can definitely see the. You can definitely see where they modified the D7 frame to make it.
It's very much a beamboat.
Yep. Anything else? Right, I think this is another Legacy design.
It is. A few of them were assimilated to Realm.
Yep. And it looks like someone took the D7 and just made it a bit blocky.
Which isn't a bad idea. It's also not a great idea.
Yeah. Also, for
What
the
is it now? We have a new ship for the fleet.
For the D7, I will mention.
Beginning construction.
I have the Star Trek Adventures Klingon core rulebook, and they have some interesting lore here. Like the D7, the D7, obviously being the main, the most visible symbol of the Empire after its first launch in 2250, but it almost fell away when the Empire and the Romulans had a brief alliance which gave the KDF its cloaking devices. The then current, quoting from the book, the then current D7 space frame couldn't accommodate the cloak, and the High Council began liquidating the D7 fleet and trade to the Romulans for more cloaking devices that would be installed in a new generation of vessels. A brilliant scientist named Katinga discovered that the cloak the Romulans were providing was faulty, and with some modification could be used in vessels as large as the D7, as long as the outer hull plating was manufactured in a new fashion. The alliance ended when Katinga himself stabbed the cowardly Romulan ambassador through his heart. While dozens of D7s had been traded away, a new design of the D7 was born, the Katinga class, the first production run having green-tinted plating to represent the blood of the traitorous Romulan Patak. Now, we will get to the Katinga later, but...
And we'll also get to the Romulan version of the D7 later.
Yeah.
Because...
The massive torpedo barrage! Just took that thing out in one go!
This is smart.
Yeah. But, I just thought that was sort of an interesting thing to do. Well, to mention. If I come across interesting bits of lore from my work on these ships, I will mention them. Now, I will mention that in the TOS era, the D7 is the only ship I have lore on in my book.
What is it now?
And we can't exactly blame him for it.
Revenge is a dish best served cold.
We are being destroyed by this nebula.
Yeah, the D7 was, well, it was the only ship we saw on screen.
We have a new ship for the fleet.
Not like some of the later eras.
Reinforcements are coming.
Or earlier ones, if you count Enterprise.
Well, we have run out of boats.
We have a new ship for the fleet.
Yes.
Well, time to swap over.
Are coming.
Yep.
Jump cut in 3, 2, 1.
Kapla, viewers. Welcome to Star Trek Online. And here we again see the legendary D7.
Which has a minor design change.
Yeah.
Or at least it should. This one was seen in Trials and Tribulations, the IKS Groth. They actually had to build a new model for that one. But there is a separate, very... D7. Main hull, D7 beta. There it is. The normal version doesn't have an impulse deck in the pod. In fact, doesn't have impulse engines at all.
Yeah. This version has the impulse engines in the secondary hull.
Just like the Katenga.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to talk about this.
Yes. The Romulan D7. Did you just try making a bird noise?
Caw!
He did. He's not wrong.
Yep, they do have a giant bird painted on the bottom.
There's
And
only one problem with it.
that being,
It's not green.
it's a I think it's taken directly from TOSR. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. Oh, I know why he says it's not green.
Not to.
Not to.
Not to. But yeah, I think the
That's
Romulans called their variant the Stormbird.
Indeed, they did. In fact, that's the name for the D7 variant in Continuum, which has a different bird.
Right.
Frankly, I think they were a little bit lazy with the textures. I can't blame them, but
Yep. Well,
it has to be said.
yep. That is
And
honestly all we can say on the original series era of Klingon starships. Unlike Starfleet, they did not have very much in the way of variety. Then again, it's the Klingons. If a design works, they work it to the ground.
and oh boy, do they.
Yeah.
The D4 STO style.
Yeah.
And since it was roughly the same size as the D7, well, we'll be discussing Enterprise another day. In fact, screw it, we'll go straight into TMP.
Okay.
And I'll save us some trouble and set up a fleet. And jump cut. Uh-oh. Too far forward. Way too far forward.
My crew is prepared.
Hello.
I'm still here.
Got nothing to say about some of these boats? Oh, right. Completely forgot about that.
Okay, I'm back. And looks like we're all ready to go.
Yep.
That's a cool looking old fighter.
It's actually ripped directly from Star Trek Starfleet Command Empire's War.
Oh.
A fighter interceptor, though not as effective as most.
Yes.
Yeah.
This one, I think, was also a direct rip from SFC-2, but I cannot be sure.
Right.
And now we move on to the
Honor
vessel,
my house.
other than the D7, that is the most iconic.
Yep. This is the Burrell class bird of prey. The starship seen in Star Trek 3. The Search for Spock.
And the second, and the first, and the only ship class to ever claim 2 starships Enterprise.
Yeah.
The second time was a result of issues.
Yeah, though that was technically a different type of bird of prey. But, yeah.
You know what? Might as well show these things in combat, because yes, their wings do fold down in this mod.
Yeah. But yes. Carrying on from my lore from the original series era, the Burrell was that starship designed
Destroy them.
to use the cloaking devices designed from the ground up to use the cloaking
honor
devices
my
that had
house.
been given to the Romulan, given them by the Romulans.
considering the fact that I just charged them straight in, this is not going to end well.
Yeah.
Barrels are very much, well, skirmish vessels.
Yeah. They are
Ready
meant
for combat.
to cloak, move in, decloak, strike, cloak, and
Let
move
loose
away.
the dogs of war.
I'm not entirely sure what this thing is supposed to be. I'm pretty sure it's a Fanon design, but it may be TNG FASA.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Another bit of, go down to the Katinga.
For Kalis! For Kalis!
Yes. As you can see, green tinted hull plating, though it's a bit more green than you'd expect, but as per the lore, the green tinted plating was to represent Romulan blood. A fun little factoid. That engineer, Katinga, who designed who basically led to the development of the Katinga class, he also developed the Burrell bird of prey. And it says the success
What
of
is it
Katinga.
now?
My book says the success of Katinga in not only uncovering the Romulan lies, but in redesigning the D7 and building the first Burrell, allowed him to start his own lesser house, the House of Katinga.
For Kalis!
Oh, that one. I think
this one's a modified SFC design. But it's a
Yeah.
torpedo cruiser.
yeah.
A light torpedo cruiser, supposedly.
Yeah, it almost looks like the Kowral class from Star Trek Armada 2, but not quite.
Ready to fight.
This one's a modified FASA design, I think. But it definitely looks like it's from Legacy.
Yeah.
You honor my house.
I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be a experimental design. Something to rival the Excelsior.
Yeah.
Just like the Katinga is supposed to
We
be
have
the
created
Connie
a new
Refit's
weapon.
counterpart.
Yeah.
Ugh.
This thing is from Star Trek Armada, from Star Trek Starfleet Command. It is the ultimate Klingon warship, the Dreadnought.
Huh.
I happen to like this particular configuration. I mean, it could be worse.
Is that 6 warp nacelles?
They do base a lot of their designs off of FASA. And what did FASA do a lot of?
Multiple pairs of warp nacelles.
Yeah, their B-10 is just a Katinga. It's just a D7 with quad nacelles. I'm not saying that's a bad concept. It's a bit lazy, but it's not a bad concept.
You're welcome. Sorry about that.
That said, it does lead to this. The only ship here from Star Trek Armada 2.
Huh. Which one is that?
The Vaudelaire class.
Huh.
Similar configuration to the Sword of Kalis class. I'm not entirely sure if that's the actual name for the ship.
Yeah.
But it's an Activision design.
Yeah. It's also kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's just a big version of the D7 Katinga with quad nacelles. But it's
Yeah.
not an illogical design. It works.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as you stated before, when a Klingon engineering crew decides to go to the limit and design a starship, they usually take that concept and work with it until they can't make it work anymore.
Yeah.
Just look at the Burrell. That thing is an evolution of the bird of prey from Enterprise, the Von Talk, as
Yes.
described by our friends at STO, which we'll be getting into in a minute.
Yes. And there is some lore regarding the Von Talk in my book.
Which isn't entirely accurate.
But I'll go ahead and state it anyway, because it is interesting. It is an interesting idea to consider. Basically, this is the late 2140s, basically, and to quote the book, soon after the warp propulsion systems were finalized for the D5, it was discovered that an asymmetrical warp field could be produced and sustained using pulsed energy inputs to a layer of warp coils, rather than just a continuous input of energy to two sets of parallel coils. While this could give a starship improved stability while at warp, it required a system that could adjust coil placement up to 25% of a vessel's longest axis. In order to accomplish this, engineers from House Antak took the lead in designing an adjustable warp wing that contained the warp coils and could move independently from the primary hull of the starship. Obviously, the first ship to use this new warp wing was the 22nd century Von Talk design. However, that design...
I think I'm about to get a session of... Well, you know what time it is.
Right. But, yes, that warp wing design eventually led to the Burrell, and all the designs that came from that.
That said, it does conflict quite a bit with established information. As an example, in the Augments, where a bird of prey, specifically the Von Talk class, was destroyed, they were specifically told to target just ahead of the warp nacelle, which was in the primary hull. Well, before House Murderous, yeah, I think it's best to concede this fight right now.
STO time?
STO time.
Okay, we're still on... Stream has ended.
Ah, crap. Hold on a moment. Stupid bloody thing.
Yeah.
Alright, I've unpaused.
Kapla of viewers. And here we are with the Burrell in STO.
Yeah, it has the wing configuration, though I have a somewhat more plausible reason why the wings go up. Planetary landings.
Fair enough, that does seem plausible. Though
yeah.
you do have to admit the
yeah, the warp wing is an interesting concept, and it might have worked before somebody decided to torpedo it in Season 4 of Enterprise.
Alright.
Now, I have problems with the Burrell of STO, mainly that the wings always stay up unless you're in combat, and I don't want to get into combat right now.
Yeah. If only there was a way to manually adjust the wings. Or even just press a button to adjust them. And speaking of the Von Talk, there it is, because the bird of prey, the Burrell and the Von Talk share the same skin in STO.
They're roughly the same size.
Yeah. Now, we might as well get into some of the other other Burrell variants, because they're not meant... They don't show up... Well, I'm not just talking about the other skins. I'm talking about the designs that don't show up in STO at all. the ones that specifically use this model, just upsized.
You're referring to the Cavort. But that's...
And, well, and the D12.
The D12 is just a Burrell variant.
Well, sort of.
As for the Cavort, the TNG mod has one.
Right. Well, I will mention... one thing about Star Trek Adventures is ships are assigned a scale, which is basically a representation of their size. The Burrell is scale 3, which is a decent size for a ship like that. The Defiant is also a scale 3. The D12, it's a scale 4, meaning it's a little bit larger.
Which is not represented very well in Generations. It's represented in Generations as roughly the same size as any bird of prey.
Right.
So...
But, basically, technically this goes into the Lost era a little bit, but the D12 was basically developed because of a concern of maintenance and replacement of warp coils as the borders were expanding away from the Federation. And so they used the basic design of the Burrell to produce Housecoat proposed the D12 as a larger, more capable version of the Burrell. And as much of the equipment and most systems would be standard, the High Council and the generals of the, quoting from the book again, the High Council and the generals of the KDF agreed to the design without passing it through the regular reviews. This act would later result in discommendation of 2 KDF generals and 4 separate claims for the right of vengeance against House Katinga. And this is because of one thing.
The plasma coils.
Yep, defective plasma coils.
Nice to know that something at least remained consistent.
Yeah, but basically, for some of the incidents, in 2339, a D12 serving House Konja, IKS Konja's Mekhleth, suffered a plasma coil failure while cloaked during a mission inside the Gorn hegemony. According to the emergency transmission, the vessel's cloak failed catastrophically, causing damage to the impulse engines. As the vessel was following a Gorn Varanus-class battleship, it was spotted and quickly destroyed with the loss of all warriors on board. A second disaster followed, with a KDF D-12 having to eject its warp core after a plasma coil failure overloaded the entire EPS system. House Katinga almost fell due to these faulty plasma coils staining its honor. While fighting against rites of vengeance from the relatives of the dead warriors of Konja's Mekhleth, the engineers of that house determined that the plasma coils used for warp and impulse propulsion in the design were at fault and were integral to the class. Rather than attempt to recall and refit each D-12 in service, House Katinga recommended that the D-12 be taken out of active service and be replaced with a ground-up redesign of the bird of prey, the Cavort class. All KDF D-12s were retired by 2353, but lesser, more desperate houses continue to use them in their fleets to this day. And yes, the Duras whores used one.
So I suppose you could say it had a dubious honor in destroying the Enterprise D.
Yes.
I mean, Krug didn't exactly honor the Burrell.
Yeah.
I mean, apparently the Burrell was the original prototype. He was commanding the prototype.
Yeah.
And then Kirk captured it.
Yeah, and renamed it the HMS Bounty to take it back to Earth.
TNG is going to be a very interesting time.
Yep.
Mostly because they take ships directly from Star Trek Armada. But
yep.
Activision seemed to know what the hell it was doing at the time.
Yep.
I'm not going to talk about modern stuff. We all know they've screwed up.
Yep. Anyway, there's a couple more TMP designs, or at least TMP era ships, mentioned in the Star Trek Adventures book. Do we have any more in STO?
Not to my knowledge. The only,
What only ship we have? Oh yeah, we could show the Katinga skin off properly.
yes.
But the other ships that I have, that my book has, are the Pachnom. Yes, there we go. There's the original. There's the Katinga, and you can see the green tinted hull plating.
It's a bit lighter than Continuum, but Continuum has some lighting issues. Homeworld and all.
Yeah. And
If the Klingon theme from,
yeah. But yeah. This, as mentioned in the book, in my book, that green tinted plating is meant to basically represent the blood of the traitorous Romulan ambassador who sold them the original cloaking devices, which didn't work with the original D7. Anyway, other ship designs that were supposedly released in the late TMP era. Well, technically it was after Undiscovered Country, maybe even after Generations. But there was the Pachnom multi-role escort, the Kolthoch class heavy fighter, which is basically like a runabout or a bomber, etc., and the Utapar heavy explorer. That thing...
I presume that thing was built off the frame of the Burrell.
Yes. The Utapar, or Bloodhawk, was based on the frame of the Burrell. And basically it was meant to design... It was designed after the previous Explorer, it was designed to replace the previous Explorer, the Tuyuk class, which was based on the Von Tak. Now, the Tuyuk, the reason it needed replacing was the Tuyuk was first launched in 2176. So, it was over 100 years old. 120, in fact, because, well, over 100 at least, because the Utapar was launched in 2295. And Chancellor Azet-Bur wanted a new ship to replace it, and it was needed in a damn hurry because a couple of Klingon colonies suffered a tribble infestation. That's right. A bird of prey variant was the core of the Great Tribble Hunt.
Squeak, squeak, squeak.
You know, if I had a Tribble, I'd probably make it make that noise, but I don't.
Yeah. Anyway, the Pachnom was launched in 2297. Basically, okay, I'll go for lore. I will quote again in the overview. The signing of the Khitomer Accords in 2293 brought rapid changes to the Klingon Defense Force. With much of the combat forces of the Empire no longer needed to patrol the long border with the Federation, Chancellor Azet-Bur wanted to diversify the types of vessels able to be utilized by the KDF. The first of these new multi-role
Do I
vessels
hear
was...
Tribbles?
The first of these new multi-role vessels was the Pachnom class escort. The original design dated back to the 2240s as an assault vessel capable of transporting a regiment of ground troops and their heavy weapons to a world targeted for invasion. While a few of these original vessels were constructed by the Great Houses, none were built for use in the KDF. And then some discussion about the first deployment of the Pac Nom to defend a mining colony being raided by Orion pirates. Unlike many... now we get to capabilities and the appearance. And from the description, this is a very unique design. Unlike...
I think we're getting a little past the purview here.
Yeah, fair enough. This was the Konos 1 design of the Katinga.
Yeah, this is the Katinga as seen in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. And I'm trying to get the angle of the ship right just before it was hit by that torpedo from the IKS, whatever the hell the name of Chang's bird of prey was.
I think Paint and Powder named it. Let me check.
Yes, hear that?
I do.
Yes, I hear it.
Tribbles.
I was wondering if you guys are gonna say something.
I did say something. I said, do I hear tribbles?
Yeah. Let's see. Let's see. Where to... Undiscovered Country. Let's see. Let's see.
But yeah, we've pretty much run out of TMP and TOS era boats.
Yeah.
And there's only one boat for the Lost era, really.
Yeah. Here we go. The Paint and Powder fan fiction named Chang's BOP the IKS Dakron. Dakronh.
Yeah, I figured I'd feature the Lost era design, because Klingons really, really don't like making new boats.
Yep, this is the Camarag, right?
Yep. And now to show the fleet version, the Kamaj, which I presume is a 25th century refit, but...
It takes the Camarag design and makes it even more of a hybrid.
It's basically halfway between the between the Katinga and the Vorcha, especially the Kamaj variant.
Yeah.
In fact, okay, that's a bit weird. That looks a little too Romulan for my taste. And here's the Vorcha skin.
Yeah.
It's a weird one. But next time we will be discussing the TNG era.
Yep. And it will probably mostly be Star Trek Continuum again because...
Oh, they have every ship.
Yeah, and STO only has 2 ships of the TNG era. The Baral also counts, but they also have the Vorcha and the Nagvar.
And then, oh boy.
Well,
save the rage, boys. Save the rage.
Yeah, I guess we don't need to do an Enterprise episode.
Oh yeah, I forgot about them.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Yeah, so after TNG comes Enterprise.
And then we get to tear Moonves apart again.
Yes. Because...
And we're not doing the freaking Klingon ships.
We have no choice.
Yes, we do.
We can
They're
discuss...
not Klingon ships.
Unfortunately, I do have a design... Unfortunately, we do have we have 2 particular ships from that era that we're going to have to discuss. Both of them are Jar Jar. Both of them are Jar Jar. Both of them... He's gonna be at that for a while.
We'll see you next week, viewers.